Okay, we're looking at the first part of the geometry semester 1 test review. So let's take a look at this first question. Number 1 says to find a counterexample to show that a conjecture is false. Remember, a counterexample is an example that proves something untrue. So we have a conjecture. Any number that is divisible by 2 is divisible by 4. Well, we can think of some numbers that works for. If it's divisible by 2, for instance, 8 is divisible by 2 and also divisible by 4. 12 is also the case, but we can think of an example that's not. For instance, 10 is divisible by 2 but not by 4. So that would be a counterexample. Looking at the choices, we see here that A, 12 is divisible by 2 and 4. 40 is divisible by both 2 and 4. 18 is divisible by 2 but not by 4. That means that 18 would be a counterexample to that question. And then again, 32 would be divisible by both 4 and 2. Okay, looking at number 2, it says that a line R is parallel to line T, and here's line R and here's line T. Find the measure of angle 5. Here we have angle 5. The diagram is not to scale. Well, the only other angle measure we have is this angle right here. Excuse me. Which is 142. Well, this transversal cuts these two parallel lines. And these two angles are actually alternate exterior, which when lines are parallel, alternate exterior angles are congruent. Therefore, angle 5 is also 142 degrees. So my answer is B. Okay, looking at number 3. Okay, we have to find the slope given these 2 points. Remember the formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we'll call 6 y2 and 3 y1. So we have 6 minus 3 over 5 minus 4, which ends up being 3 over 1, or just 3. And that's how we find the slope. Number 4, it says to find the value to the nearest tenth. What we have here is a right triangle. It helps that it's a right triangle because we can find a missing side of a right triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem. So x squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. Remember, 13 is the hypotenuse, so it is what we square the two legs and set it equal to the hypotenuse squared. So we have x squared plus 144 equals 169. Subtract 144 from both sides. We get x equals 25. What number squared equals 25? The answer is 5. Okay, let's look at number 5. We have a property of equality. If L equals M, then M equals L. What we've done is we've flipped those places around. When we flip the plane around, we have the symmetric property. Remember, the reflexive is when we set something equal to itself. Those two are most often confused with each other. Okay, number 6, we have to find the corresponding part. ACB is that angle right there with the 2 equals. So we're going to look for the angle in the other triangle that has the 2 equal marks for the angle, which would be angle P. Which of those would be angle P? Now they name them differently. PNM, remember the middle number, let me zoom in here, the middle number would be the vertex. So if N is the vertex, that's not our answer. If M is the vertex, that's not our answer. P actually is our answer, because it's the angle, and MPN would be MPN, that angle right there, which is the one we're talking about. All right, let's look at number 7. Complete this statement. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then, so which of these statements is true? Corresponding angles are complementary. Well, first of all, if it's talking about complementary, no, because they're either supplementary or congruent, not complementary. So we could eliminate that. Alternate exterior angles, we can eliminate that. They're not complementary. Our choices would be supplementary or congruent. Same side interior angles are supplementary. That is the answer. Those are the only ones that are supplementary. Alternate interior angles, those are actually congruent. You remember alternate exterior angles, those are congruent. Corresponding are congruent. But same side interior angles would be supplementary. So my answer is B. Okay. Reflect AB over the y-axis. This is where you would benefit from having your table in your notes. If we reflected this across the y-axis, you would know that that rule says that x and y is changed so that we change the sign of the x-coordinate and leave the y-coordinate the same. So, for instance, A here is 4, -1. Well, its reflection would be -4, -1. And B, which is 3, -2, would become -3, -2. So that's first our reflection over the x-axis. Now we have to rotate it 180 degrees. And that's a different change. In order to do that, what do we do with the x and y? Here, I'll use a different color. We're looking at the rotation now. And if we're going to rotate it, then what we're going to do is we're going to change both the sign of the x and the y coordinates. So now these would become 4, +1, which would be right here. And that would be A. And then B would be 3, +2. Again, we keep them in the same order, we just change the sign there. And that would be a rotation, a 180-degree rotation about the origin. So that answer would be, the new spot would be, A would be 4, 1, B would be 3, 2, D. Okay, number 9. Which angles are corresponding? Well, let's look at 3 and 7. 3 and 7 are vertical angles. I'm sorry, not 3 and 7, 3 and 11. 3 and 11, actually, those are corresponding angles. That would be my answer. Look at 8 and 3. Those two wouldn't be corresponding. They're linear pair, supplementary. 7 and 3, that's probably what I was thinking. 7 and 3 there would be vertical angles. Those wouldn't be. And then, of course, it's none of these because our answer was A. Okay, number 10. The measure of angle 4 is 31 degrees. Find the measure of angle 2. Well, these two lines intersect, therefore these two angles are vertical angles, and they're congruent. So the answer is A, 31. This question here, what we've got is, it's not drawn to scale, but it says that DF bisects EDG. That means these two angles are congruent. Find FG. Well, if this is an angle bisector, then it's the same distance from one side of the angle as it is to the other. Therefore, n plus 8 is equal to 4n minus 4. Subtract n from both sides, add 4 to both sides, and you end up with n equaling 4. But we're not done because it says to find FG, so we're going to plug in 4 back into FG, which is the 4n minus 4. So 4 times n, which we found to be 4, minus 4. So 16 minus 4 is 12, D. Okay, number 12, list the sides in order from shortest to longest. Well, remember, the shortest sides are opposite the smallest angles. This angle of 26 is the smallest angle. Therefore, that side right there is the shortest. This side is JK. So which one starts with JK? Not A, not B. So it's one of these two. The next shortest angle is 51 degrees, and it's opposite this side. This side is LK. Therefore, D is my answer. That would be in order from shortest to longest. Shortest angles are opposite the shortest sides. Okay, number 13, name all the segments parallel to GF. GF is this segment right here. Well, the segments parallel to that would of course be AB, HI, and then also CD would be parallel because it's parallel to the others. It would be the one we would probably forget if we were to forget one. So HI, AB, and CD, the answer is B. Okay, number 14, what is the negation of this statement? Michael's team won the game. Basically, the negation means the opposite. If Michael's team won the game, we would say Michael's team did not win the game. That would be the negation. It's where we add the word not to change the meaning to the opposite. What additional information will you allow to prove the triangle is congruent by the will allow you to prove the triangle is congruent? Well, we already have the hypotenuse to be congruent. We already have that it's a right angle. The only other thing is we need to prove that there is a leg that is congruent. We don't need an angle to tell us anything. We already know that BCE is 90 degrees. AC congruent to DC, AC congruent to DC, that would be two legs being congruent, which would give us what we would need. And AC and BD, that would not be the case because those two angles, or those two segments, would be these two right here, which if they're on the same triangle, that doesn't help us. Okay? Okay, those are the 15 questions that we're looking at for this one. Tomorrow we're going to check out 16 through 30.